and welcome to this episode of ArtsAbly in Conversation. My name is Diane Collin. This series presents artists, academics, and project leaders who dedicate their time and energy to a better accessibility for people with disabilities in the arts. You can find more of these conversations on our website, artsably.com, which is spelled ArtsAbly.com. Today, ArtsAbly is in conversation with Heather White Luckow, aka Heather Feather, a children's performer and educator and a musicologist based in Montreal in Canada. You can find the resources mentioned by Heather Feather during this episode on ArtsAbly's website in the blog section.
A one, a two, a one, two, three. I have a happiness bucket inside me, and you have one as well. When the buckets are full, we're really happy, but when they are empty, we don't feel so swell. When we are down, we can do things that feel good, like ride a bike or joke with a friend. We each have the power to choose to do happy things, to fill our buckets, to feel better again. Fill up your bucket, fill up your bucket. There's a bucket for you, a bucket for me, for all of your friends and your whole family.
Welcome to this new episode of ArtsAbly in Conversation. Today, I am with Heather White Luckow, aka Heather Feather, who is a children's performer and educator and also a musicologist based in Montreal in Canada. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, you have an impressive field of activities in what you call kindie music, which is kids and indie music combined. I love this term, by the way. So when did that all started? What led you to that work with children? And as a musician yourself, where did it start?
So my name is Heather. I have multiple sclerosis. And today actually is the first day of Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month in Canada. And orange is one of my theme colors when I perform, because it's an important aspect of who I am and who I present to children. How did I start in music? So I think in the province of Newfoundland, we are born singing, and it's a very musical place. All my relatives are very musical. My dad is a very, very good amateur guitarist. He was an English professor and then an English teacher. And my mother has a beautiful voice. And my whole family sang. And like many other families, whenever we were together, we didn't watch TV. We didn't play a board game, we sang. And so this was how culture is handed down, how lessons are learned, how entertainment is had. And so music was always important to me growing up in my family and in my culture. I wanted to be a classical musician, and I focused on classical music all the way through. I think I first heard my first atonal, so 20th century, not tonal, not with scales, but more mathematically oriented music when I was 12, and I was instantly drawn to it, which is a little bit odd, I think. But at least my piano teacher told me it was very odd. But I loved it, and I wanted to know how it worked. So I started to play the French horn, kind of as a joke, because I was bored playing the clarinet, and my band director, they said, well, why don't you take this from the supply closet over the summer, and I'll give you a record, so you know how it sounds, like a 33, and a book to learn the notes. So I taught myself to play over the summer, And that became my primary instrument along with singing. So I started my undergraduate and started writing music then. My interest was film music. I wanted to compose for film and for now the equivalent of writing for prompts for Netflix. I got a scholarship to go to Bowling Green State University in Ohio. So I continued on there as a composer and then a music theorist. So in French, we say it's musicologie, like it's kind of the same field, but I'm a little bit more on the numbers side in theory. And I came back to Canada to live in Montreal to do my PhD in that field. So up until then, I had always performed professionally or semi-professionally on the side, either on my car, on my horn, or singing, and taught everywhere I was. So teaching is also runs in the family. And then I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and everything changed. And it was as I was finishing the PhD. So I took a few years off to figure out what I was going to do next. I started family with my husband, and I just loved being a mother. And I had worked with children a lot when I was younger, and I went back to working with children. I was asked, could you do a class at our school for the preschoolers? And that's how I started. I hadn't worked with children for about 20 years. And it was really, really rewarding. And then I decided this keeps me feeling healthy. I feel happy. I don't feel stressed. This is a really great way to spend my time. I'm enjoying this. And I find it rewarding. And the children and the families liked it too. So that's how I started on that path in maybe 2012, 2013. And then, yeah, started doing it full time in 2017. So that's how I found children's music. It was a big career shift, but in a way, a return to my roots because it's making music within families, which is what I did growing up.
So what made you record your first songs for children?
That's another good question. So I always write for the children that I have because children are always exploring and growing. And, from an educational perspective and from, psychology of the whole child, you have all these different ways in which children grow as they develop. And I wanted to make sure that to each program that I went to see, because I started visiting preschools and schools, that I was addressing the children's needs. So specific songs were written at the request of the schools. Like one school asked me to write a song about what's known in Quebec as the construction holiday, when all the trucks stopped working for 2 weeks. And so I could teach them what that was. Or another one wanted to teach about migration, the fall migration of Canadian wildlife and where they go. So that was a really packed song. So all of these were a little sketchbook. And when 2020 happened and the world stayed home, all of a sudden I wasn't going out anymore to work with children. And I thought I should record some of these. So I started then refining my work and which ones I thought would be most beneficial to a wide variety of children and not just some specific classes. And that's how that started. It was a side project.
So what's funny is that you have a classical training, but all these songs, they have jazz, they have rock, they have guitar, they have bounce arounds that change style. And well, all these collaborators you met to create these songs, how did you meet them and what was the collaboration like?
That was really exciting. I had an idea of what I wanted each song to sound like. Part of being a music theorist and a composition teacher is knowing how to write colors of instruments and in different styles to make it sound like it's in a style. And I knew I did want jazz musicians because I wanted everything to be united through jazz and swing. And I started looking for jazz musicians in Montreal. And I started with my friend Stratsamir Dimitrov, who is one of the co-owners of Alchemist Studios in Montreal North. And he said, well, I have some fellows that I usually play with. Let's start with Jim Doxas. He's a fabulous jazz drummer, and he's high in demand, like internationally, and especially between the Montreal to New York corridor. And then Jim said, well, I've got my best friend, Adrian Vedetti, plays bass, so let's take him along. And so as the band got recruited, we recorded that first album together. And it was a wonderful experience. Going on to the second album, people had changed what they were doing. At the time of we were still a little bit in lockdown, so they had more time to record. And now everybody's everywhere. So the only person who was able to return was the pianist. But we also then recruited still people from within the jazz community. And I also decided to work with a man named Dean Jones, who has won Grammy Awards for producing children's music. He's done writing for Nickelodeon, for Disney. I think he's done Sesame Street. And I thought, I want to bring this second album to somebody who knows the commercial market. Because I know what I like, but would other people like it too? Because there is that commercial aspect. You want your music heard, but it needs to be accessible. And we also do want people to stream it and try to be interested in listening to it. So working with Dean was really, really fun. So I went to about an hour and a half north of New York City in September and took, again, like my teaching sketchbook. So I had 15, 20 songs and I opened it up and I said, now, this is what I have. Let's pick up the 10 and make an album out of it. And he said, this is going to be a lot of fun. So we jammed and then we picked 8 to start with. And then the rest was done between Montreal and New York. And he also has a circle of musicians, professional session musicians, primarily that play in New York City. And they came out to record as well. So it was neat. It was 2 studios, 2 countries, and the tracks were being emailed back and forth. It was super fun.
So there is also a strong education component in these songs. And when you teach children these songs, how do you work with them? What's the process of explaining what immigration is, or what fruits are, or what a dinosaur is? All that.
That's fun. So children are like sponges and they love to learn. So they're the songs that are very much the learning about the natural world, learning about science. And when children have music to attach facts onto, it sinks in a lot better. And music is used in collaboration with other things when we teach in all subjects. There's going to be your math teacher in school. My son's math teacher in grade 5 brought in a lot of music about math to help them remember how to do like order operations or something, you know? So I just did the same thing. Very, very fun. And then there's different types of music that I write to make sure that it's not just cognitive, like for instance, gross and fine motor. I work with a lot of children that might have cerebral palsy. They might have other differences or some challenges. And then you have your children with no challenges, but they are all trying to achieve milestones. And as we grow, like the normal progression of a healthy child from crawling to bouncing, to be able to stand, to bounce, and then to jump. And then first it's going to be 1 foot, and then it's going to be 2 feet. So to write songs that challenge the child to achieve the milestone. And then the latest album is more social emotional growth. So it has to do with how to create community. And disability plays a large part in this one, as well as racism, standing up against, saying diversity is a good thing, and encouraging children to not judge a book by its cover, and to listen to these little stories that can be taken at face value, but you can also think, wait, I can ask them later. So do you think that the shark was really a mean guy in that song, or did he just want to play? But you were afraid when he came out because he was a shark, right? He didn't want to eat his friends. And in this song, he had a birthday cake, and he liked to bake, and he wanted to share his birthday cake. So,
can you tell us more about this album?
This album is super exciting. It's called Together, and it was probably the best word I could think of. Short to the point about everyone has a role in society. Everyone has importance. Everyone has value. Everyone has something to bring to the table. And as human beings in the same world, we are better when we work together. When we're helping one another, when we're supporting one another. The first song in the album is called Party. And it starts out, the first verse is, if you walk or if you roll, if you use a walker or cane or a chair, just come in the door. It don't matter how you move, it only matters that you came. because everyone in the world is unique, but we're all the same. We're all the same in that in an ideal world, we're all welcome to the party. Everyone is welcome. We make space for everyone. Some songs about how we can, children, as they're growing, they depend on their parents when they fall down to say, it's okay, it's going to be all right. Around the age of 4, they start to self-regulate. So they are able to pull themselves together and tell themselves, oh, that's okay, I'll be fine, and to calm themselves. So even starting at 3, and then at 4, they're moving away from the parents and they're doing more interpersonal relationships. And so a song, Fill Your Bucket, is about that. So when I'm sad, I can choose to fill up my own happiness bucket that's inside of me. I carry it wherever I go. The only purpose of it is to hold my happy feelings about myself. So when I'm sad, I can do something for myself. I don't need it from the outside. It's not extrinsic, it's intrinsic. For me, I ride a bicycle, and that's the lyric I used. Or joke with a friend. That fills my happiness bucket. Now, did you know that you can fill somebody else's happiness bucket at the same time? I can say to my friend, would you like to play together? Would you like to play a game? Would you like to go to a movie? All of a sudden, I'm happy because I'm with my friend, but they're happy because I made them happy at the same time. Or you give a friend a compliment, and when they're happy, it in turn makes you happy. You can also protect your bucket from other people being mean. Put a lid on your bucket. We still lead with kindness. We try to give good examples so that that person will not be a bucket dipper and will be able to fill up their own bucket someday. And then there are other songs about inclusion from all different perspectives of everybody needs someone to cheer for them. Everybody needs a great big hug. Everybody needs someone to know their name. Find someone sitting on their own and give them some love. And then the chorus is from the perspective of the child. I only want to be part of your game, so please include me. Don't look past me. I need some friends who know my name, so please include me and love me for who I am. So these are songs for children that are starting at 4, but an older set than the last album. This new one is more, I'm going to say K to 6, up to grade 6, to grade 7. And yeah, trying to make the world a more kind, mutually supportive place where we cheer on our friends because they're our friends. This one song, if we are in a race and you win, I don't need to be sad. Even though I lost, you're my friend, so I should celebrate you because you're my friend. And when I celebrate you, that makes me happy too.
And this is the last album that you released, right?
This is the one that's coming out in June, and that single is out. So the 3 songs we just chatted about, the Bucket Song, Party, and Happy for You have all been released as singles. They're out now. They've been out for a few months.
So what's the plan with this album launch? Are you going to tour?
I hope so. There are some things in the works, but it hasn't been finalized. I'm hoping to do a lot of school shows. So to do them in blocks where I can take it, and then to have songs from my last album, I already have them in French. So when I go elsewhere in Canada, I can do a bilingual show. So when we're talking about healthy eating, because you were talking about the one with the why do we eat healthy? And I'm singing I can eat a rainbow. Why I eat the rainbow? Because it helps me grow up to be big and strong. So that one's easily translated, right? Je peux manger une banane. Or, instead of I can eat a banana. So I've been working on that so that, yeah, it'll be a bilingual show with bilingual question and answer periods. And I hope it will, these songs are meant to spark conversation, to make you think. And there's often a lot of different layers in there. So it's accessible for a kindergartner, it's accessible for a 3-year-old. But a kid in grade 6 is going to read a lot more into it, and they're going to get the much bigger picture, probably at the adult level. And so we can do those with the songs. It's the questions that get asked even within the family, like, oh, well, I really thought that ending was surprising. That I wasn't expecting that to happen. Why did that happen? What does that mean?
But one thing that is interesting is that you created your music company with the idea to put the children and the parents together in a room and to make them work together on these songs, or kind of, have fun together on these songs. So what was the idea behind the company? Is that am I correct by assuming that?
Yeah, so that's the other part of what I do is called We Jam. So before I was a performer, I created a parent and child music company. That's what was then hired out to go into preschools with the educators of the children in place of the parents and the children. And the idea is that when I was growing up in Newfoundland, I wasn't just observing and listening to music, I was actively making the music with my family. And it was a collaborative activity that meant a lot more because there are pro-social bonds that can be formed when we make music together. There are things that we create. It's like it's bigger than the sum of its parts, and I wanted to bring that to families. So some families, the parents don't know how to play any instruments, and I have, 10, 12 ukuleles on the wall, and I have them painted with nail polish for the fingerings. So children are working on their fine motor skills and like their pincer grip by learning to play a C chord. And then eventually they get to the right fingering, but the parents are doing it too. So the parents go out and buy the ukulele, and then they go home, and now all of a sudden they have two, and daddy and child are playing together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very nice.
It's really, really rewarding, honestly, to see parents interacting with their children at their level and to see them growing together. And the parents actually modeling, it's okay, I'm learning too. That's very special.
And children can go back at home and say, so you remember the part where who are you when you're teaching these songs, you're Heather Feather?
Sometimes I'm not. It depends on where I am. So when the oldest classes that I have at the preschools and in my home studio, I can be, absolutely. And the children are able to understand. I also take babies. So that's very much more working on developmental milestones in, like you have your spheres of language, cognitive development, physical development, fine and gross motor skills in your language. So getting those in there. And just encouraging the parents to have fun with the children so that as they grow, they can grow through my program. Some of them go off, they do other things. Some go for a year and then come back. So they pop in and out of the program. And as long as the children come back into an age-appropriate class, it's like they never left. Because those children are also collaborative and they work with one another. And one child can go up to the other and say, try using this finger instead of this one. Because they interact like a family, right? They've internalized the social lessons of helping. And
then in other school, you're Miss Heather?
Some schools, they call me Heather Feather.
Heather Feather. Okay.
The name actually came because I am in Quebec and the children couldn't say Heather at all. So I got Eder, which was okay, but it's not a common name in Montreal. It's an English name. Mm-hmm. So they knew, though, what a feather is. So children, English or French, knew the word feather. I guess they use them in arts and crafts. So in the preschool, they started calling me Miss Feather or Miss Feather. So I thought, oh, I should call myself that because they can say that. So that's where Heather Feather came from. So some call me Miss Heather, some will say Heather Feather. Whatever they call me is fine with me. As long as we're learning and having fun.
But I'm thinking of these conversations at home where the child comes back and says, well, I don't understand exactly what I mean. I sung a song about accessibility and diversity and inclusion, but I don't understand really what it is. And then it's up to the parents to have this conversation with them. But it's a fantastic starter to have these conversations. Also, the parents sometimes don't have that. Never had that conversation before, whatever it is about immigration or about human rights, but that explained to children through songs. And I have a question that is kind of related to that. It's about the role of accessibility and accessibility in culture in general, or in disability culture, as we can sometimes call it in disability studies. What is it for you to be in a world where you promote accessibility in the arts?
I only stepped into that part of the role in the last maybe 2 or 3 years. 3 years. Before that, I just didn't bring up that I had multiple sclerosis. And on the days that I wasn't feeling well, I didn't go into work. So nobody really saw it, and nobody sees chronic fatigue. If I have a problem with my hand and I can't finger pick, I could always bring the ukulele and no one would know that my fingers weren't working, right? Like, so if I don't tell you, you won't know because I have my own coping mechanisms. So stepping into that has been empowering, and I really enjoy it. I like the idea that being more open about it now, and now moving to the other end of actually promoting these rights, it gives others the courage to ask for what they need, to not be afraid to disclose themselves, to see themselves in you, and to say, wow, okay, you figured out how you can still work in this career. Can we brainstorm? How do I do it? It's really, really rewarding. I feel the same way as I do working with the children. It's a privilege and an honor when somebody takes you into their confidence in that way. And as for me being the one that's just sending it out there, I find it's easy with children because they're understanding, they want to understand, and they want to ask questions. And there's nothing wrong with letting them ask early. So now when I have a bad day, I can remember times in the past couple of years I've taken my walker because I was so dizzy, I needed it. A cane wasn't enough. So I came in with my four-wheeled walker with the seat so I could take a break to sit, and I had my breaks. And the children said, "What is that, Heather Feather?" One of the Jewish schools I teach at, "My Bubba's got one. Why do you have one? You don't have white hair." So it was a great discussion. And I explained why I use one, how it's a positive thing, how it helps me to do what I want to do. Just like you wear glasses and it helps you to see further, right? Well, I can use this and I can go places that I wouldn't be able to go to, and I can go further. So, what is adaptive equipment? Why do we use it? What's a hearing aid? Why would you use that? Does this make you any less capable? Well, no. And you're always going to find a child in each class that has some kind of difference. And the children have already accepted this one child. So now it's me, and I have a difference, and these couple of children have a difference, and it just becomes a wonderful thing.
Funny, because I'm also a voice teacher and I use a wheelchair. And I teach older kids. I teach 9+.
Okay.
And until not 18, but not far. And it was always, interesting to see how students react to being in a room with someone in a wheelchair, and not really asking questions, because my parents told me it's not really polite, right? But at a certain point was like, can I ask a question? Finally, go for it. Ask any question.
Which is the mark of a true teacher. You want the questions asked. Good for you.
Yes. With children, as you say, I also did ECM, and so early childhood music, and that's no problem. I always had someone on my knees and someone like, can I push you, or can I run after you? Never had an issue with these children this age, like 4 to maybe 6.
Absolutely. They're very understanding, and they don't see any differences as a negative. They just say it's a difference, but so what?
So we know each other from an organization called ROMT, Recording Artist and Music Professional with Disabilities. So first of all, you are a pro member of ROMT, so meaning you're really embracing now this strength of you. And also, we are not a lot of musicologists, but I think you're the only music professional who works with children. I'm not sure, but I think you are. in the whole pack of professional, and we have a lot right now. It's 80. So thank you.
It's been a really great group to join. Yeah, it's fabulous. I'm really happy I did.
Yeah. I know some teach younger children, but I don't think any teach any do songs for children themselves. And so I'm so happy when I see our conversations in these groups that you can represent that.
I really like being able to do it too because I only joined Ramp. I only found out about Ramp through Andrew and Polly when they were nominated for a Grammy for Best Children's Album of the Year. Not last year, but the year before. And Andrew was blind.
Aha.
So I saw him standing next to Lachi and thought, wait, what's this group called? And it was because I was following them on Instagram and I was saying, I'm so proud of you, congratulations. And then they said something about Rant. So then I said, well, what is Rant? So there's one other member that I know that does children's music. So
who's that?
They're pro members, but they're lovely, Andrew and Polly, and they're so talented.
Oh yeah, okay.
Live in California.
Yes, true. Yeah, I remember now. Sorry, Andrew.
But I remember because that's the way I found out about the group.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, it's a fantastic group. And it's really they transformed the way the Grammy Awards are held. They transformed discussions in the Recording Academy, and Lachi is really such a great motto of this group, really.
Absolutely. And when I was at Folk Alliance International representing REMT, it was just wonderful to be able to have so many people that had come that it's a similar thing. They're either programming for festivals, they're venue owners, and they want to know how to make sure that the spaces are more accessible, processes of application is including everybody, that there's nobody that can't apply. How do you make sure you're getting really representative? Are you like scaring people away that are part of the disabled community before they even get a chance to think about going in the door? And yeah, some really, really great discussions there.
Okay, so I have a last question for you. And it's about people who might have counted in your career or might have motivated you, might have launched you to a certain path. If you had to think of one or maybe two people who really were there in your career for you, who would it be and why?
There are many for many of us. I think the most impactful two were the ones that saw that I was disabled before I knew I was disabled and encouraged me to keep going. So they knew that I was finding it hard and said, but don't give up. No, we don't know what's wrong with you, but keep going. That was special. So in my undergraduate, I was having a lot of health problems and I was having problems walking and with numbness in one leg. And my French horn teacher, who was also the head of theory and she taught musicology, said, I don't know what this is, but take the day, go get, a CAT scan or whatever. And I would be told, like, I worked with this lady for 4 years. And every time I went in, I was, oh, this is a migraine that's just showing up as part of your motor problems. Even if you don't have a headache or all kinds of strange things, they're saying, like, we don't know what this is. And she always encouraged me to keep going. And then also a lady that was the head of my department. She was my department chair during the PhD. And we became good friends. Firstly, because I answered her call for a library assistant to go get her books at the library, because at the point, she couldn't get her motorized wheelchair into the library. There were renovations going on. And so she introduced herself. Her name is Eleanor Stubley. And she is also a musicologist, conductor, and she taught music education courses at McGill. So she was a triple threat. She was also a French horn player. And she had been in a chair for a very long time. She had a rather progressive form of multiple sclerosis. Funny, dark sense of humor, soft-spoken, and just so capable. And she figured out I had multiple sclerosis before I knew what it was. And I remember once being upset in her office after we'd become friends, and I said, I don't know what to do. I saw a neurologist who can't diagnose me and said I don't meet all the criteria. And she said, you should go to my neurologist. So she picked up her office phone, called her neurologist, and said, I have an appointment next week. I have a student here. I need you to give her that appointment. And she passed over the phone because it's hard to get a specialist, right, in the Canadian healthcare system. And so I went to see this specialist, her doctor, who diagnosed me right away. And within a month, I was on some kind of disease modification therapy. And she is also the one who encouraged me to take some time away from teaching at McGill, from studying, to take a year of leave, to take the maternity leave once I got married, to start a family, that I could do it. And eventually to encourage me, once we figured out that it was stress of being in academia, to step away. And I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for her. I say, I don't owe someone my life, but I owe her my legs. I would also be in a chair by now if it was not for her and that diagnosis. Like, it was just an incredible gift.
Yes, and people, I think, don't realize, or don't really see what is happening when we are engaging ourselves with an academic career. It's very stressful. We try to do our best with the students, but also when what happened to you is that you didn't have this role model before meeting her, who was like, everything's gonna be all right. Even if, what's the name of your first teacher who you mentioned?
Her name was Kjellren Hesteken. She was a Norwegian lady. She's wonderful.
So you have people who don't know what's happening, but who are just cheering you up and saying everything's going to be all right. But still, until you meet this person who's like, I know what's happening. I went through that. And then you can see things differently and saying, okay, so I might be okay then.
Exactly. And that's why I'm happy to do what I do now with Ramped, because now when I go into a conference, I meet people who are where I was, and I can be that person to them. And it's just a random encounter, but you never know how you affect the lives of others, and how a few kind words and then a quiet conversation over coffee can help somebody get new perspective, and they won't give up either. They'll find a way to work around, because when you're disabled, as you know, we have so many compensatory mechanisms, so many backup plans, because we want to get where we're going, or we just want to get that job done that day,
Well, thank you so much for sharing these stories with us, and your testimonies, and your songs. And we're gonna share that with our listeners. We're gonna publish all important dates and links on our website, so that everybody can have a look at your work.
Thank you so much.
Well, have a fantastic day, and maybe see you soon in the community.
You too. Hope to see you.
Yeah. Bye.